The intervention was scheduled without my permission, which should tell you everything. My name is Lucas Bennett, 34 years old, single, no children, no social media. According to my family, that meant my life was falling apart. The problem wasn't that I was struggling. The problem was that they thought I was. For years, my family measured success the same way: marriage, house, children, corporate title. Check those boxes and you were successful. Miss one, people started asking questions. Miss several, they started praying for you. I missed all of them, which is how I ended up becoming the family disappointment, at least in their minds. 5 years earlier, I left a prestigious consulting firm. My salary was excellent. My future looked secure. My parents loved telling people where I worked. Then I quit without warning, without explanation, and apparently without permission. My mother cried. My father stopped speaking to me. My brother called it a midlife crisis. The truth was much simpler. I hated every minute of that job. The money was good. Everything else was miserable, so I left and started a commercial property business. Privately, quietly. I didn't post online. I didn't brag. I didn't update relatives. That was mistake number one, because when people don't know what's happening, they invent their own story. Over the next few years, my family became increasingly concerned. I lived modestly, drove an older truck, worked strange hours, avoided discussing money. To them, those were warning signs. To me, they were business decisions. The company grew. Then grew again, then grew faster. I bought small office buildings, then larger ones, then retail properties. By 34, I owned assets worth several $1 million. My family thought I was unemployed. Amazing what happens when assumptions replace conversations. The breaking point came after a family reunion. Apparently one of my cousins asked, "What exactly does Lucas do now?" Nobody knew, not even my parents, which led them to the most reasonable conclusion imaginable. Obviously, I was failing. 3 weeks later, my mother called. Her voice sounded strangely cheerful, too cheerful, never a good sign. Then she announced, "We're coming to visit." Plural, always dangerous. My parents arrived Saturday morning. My brother came too, along with his wife. In several grocery bags, actual grocery bags. I stared at them, then stared at my mother, then back at the groceries. Finally, I asked, "Why are you carrying enough food for a natural disaster?" Nobody laughed. That should have warned me. Then my father cleared his throat, the way he did before delivering bad news, or what he believed was bad news. Then he said, "Son, we think it's time for an honest conversation." The intervention had begun. For the next 20 minutes, they explained my own life to me. Apparently, I was struggling financially. I was too embarrassed to admit it. I needed help. I needed guidance. I needed support. The confidence was incredible. The accuracy was less impressive. At one point, my brother actually offered me job applications, to companies that rented office space from me. I nearly choked trying not to laugh. Eventually, my mother asked the question she'd clearly been waiting to ask. "Lucas, are you okay?" The sincerity in her voice stopped me, because despite everything, they weren't trying to be cruel. They genuinely believed I needed saving, which somehow made it worse. Then my father said, "We'll help you get back on your feet." That was the moment I decided to end it, politely, but permanently. I looked at everyone, then asked, "Would you like to see where I work?" They agreed immediately, probably expecting a tiny rented office or a parking space. Something depressing. Instead, I drove them downtown. The closer we got, the quieter they became, because the building was nicer than expected. Much nicer, 20 stories, glass exterior, prime location. My brother frowned, then asked, "Your office is here?" I nodded. Technically true. The lobby doors opened. We walked inside, and that's when everything changed. The receptionist looked up, immediately smiled, then said, "Good morning, Mr. Bennett." My father stopped walking. My mother froze. My brother blinked, twice. Then the receptionist continued, "The investor meeting starts in 20 minutes. Silence, pure silence. The elevator ride was even better. Nobody spoke, not one word, because everyone was busy recalculating reality. The conference room overlooked the city. Inside sat attorneys, investors, property managers, accountants, all waiting. For me, my brother looked physically ill. My mother looked confused. My father looked embarrassed. For the first time all day, nobody offered advice. After the meeting ended, we went to lunch. The mood had changed dramatically. Finally, my father asked, "How many buildings do you own?" I answered, Nobody touched their food for several seconds. Then my mother quietly said, "Why didn't you tell us?" Fair question, so I answered honestly, because every time I tried talking about business, nobody listened. They only listened to what confirmed their assumptions. Silence followed, a long silence. Then my father surprised me. He stood, walked around the table, and sat beside me, something he hadn't done in years. Then he said, "I owe you an apology, not for doubting me, for never asking. There's a difference, a big one." As we left the restaurant, my brother looked at me and laughed, then shook his head. "You know what's embarrassing?" I smiled. "What?" He grinned. "I brought job applications to my landlord, for the first time all weekend." Everyone laughed, even me, and that's when I realized something. My family didn't drive 5 hours because they thought I was a failure. They drove 5 hours because they cared. They just made the mistake of confusing concern with certainty. And certainty has a funny way of making smart people look ridiculous.